Was your 2025 garden a bust? Today, we're going to break down everything that happened in my 2025 gardening season. We're going to go over successes or wins that we had in our garden, any failures we had in our garden, and as an added bonus, we're going to go over what we're looking forward to the most for next year, 2026. Hey everybody, Doug the Croc Gardener here. I hope everybody's having a great fall. I hope your harvests were all bountiful, just as bountiful as mine was. Mine was pretty good this year. This year I had goals to take more advantage of my harvest. Yes, I usually do get pretty good harvest, but I usually leave a lot out in the garden and not on the table like I should be. This year I planned on trying to get more out of my garden harvest. I also wanted to get onions to grow from seed and see if I could get that to do that, repeat that every year from here on out. Those were my main goals for this year's garden. So to set the stage, I do garden in Zone 6B here in Central Illinois, and we had a fantastic growing year. All the way through the year, we had fantastic rain going through here, fantastic weather, just the perfect amount of rain. Not too much, not too little. And then August hit. It was dry as a bone towards the end of July and all the way through August. September was no better. We had very, very little rain. We were in drought conditions. I am so glad I put in a little bit of an irrigation system. That saved my garden this summer. So let's start off with my big wins this year. The first and foremost star of the show this year has to be my onions. My onions did fantastic. Let me tell you, I grew some onions from little bitty seeds all the way up to these huge giant onions. I also had some onion starts that I had in here as well as a backup plan. As a result, I came out with a bunch of onions. I mean, we're talking probably a little bit too many onions. So we may have to scale back on those this year. But the onions were a success. We're gonna try the same steps we did last year to grow from seed like we did this year, and we'll hopefully be able to replicate that next year. The next thing that I got out of the garden this year that I didn't get last year were sweet potatoes. We were able to get our sweet potatoes harvested in time before all the voles got them. Last year we had all kinds of sweet potatoes that we dug up that the voles have gotten eaten. So this year we're going to try to get rid of some of those voles in this winter. We'll see if we can do that. Matter of fact, I look right behind me. There's a vole digging in the bed looking for some leftover sweet potatoes that I had missed. But all in all, our sweet potato harvest was very, very well. We came out with some huge sweet potatoes. One of them weighed about 4.5 pounds. Chamomile was also a great source in my garden. Matter of fact, I had a great tea garden this year between the mint, the chamomile, and the hibiscus. Got some other herbs in there like basil as well. Those things did all very well. I have a good stockpile of tea for this winter. Something new I tried this year was cantaloupe. I tried it in the past, so it's not really new per se, but this year I was very successful at growing cantaloupe. I had several cantaloupes that I grew. I was able to eat them fresh. Matter of fact, I ate so many cantaloupe whenever they were starting to ripe, I was getting a little bit sick of them, but hey, that's just the way it works. And typically the star of my garden is the tomatoes. And the tomatoes did not disappoint this year. We were able to can tomato sauce this year. We had pizza sauce. We had regular spaghetti sauce. We had picante sauce. This is something new that we tried this year. We also just canned tomatoes so we have them ready to go for chili and different things like that. The tomatoes were very prominent this year. We are probably going to have to scale back next year because we're going to have so many tomato canned goods left over from this year. So we might have to take that consideration when we deal with next year's garden. And last but not least, the garlic harvest was a fantastic garlic harvest this year as well. We were able to produce garlic in big bulbs. As a matter of fact, I even won a little bit of award from 4 of my garlic heads, combining them in the Big Garlic Challenge. But not only were the vegetables great, I had an awesome flowers around the garden. I had great success with these cannas that I had. I also had some coneflowers. I had some bee balm that I had planted that worked out real well. I also had some daisies and some other various varieties that attracted all these pollinators to my garden that helped out with all those successful vegetables. Now, the biggest surprise out of all these plants that I had to be my red roselle hibiscus. I just put a video out about harvesting those and making those and drying those out for tea. If you want to, go check that video out. I'll put a link in the description. I'll also put one up above. We'll go ahead and show you how I took those, harvested them, and dried them out for hibiscus tea. Now, these things were very good. I've tried to grow these twice in the past. I typically didn't have enough time with them. But this year I did get them out a little bit late, but I did start them down in the basement a little bit earlier. So they did have a little bit of a jump start. And I think by moving them out a little bit later than I normally would have, I think helped out as well, because it was a little bit warmer out when I put them out. And as soon as I put them in the ground, they took off. Not only did they took off, they produce. There is a ton of calexes on there, which is what you want for your red roselle hibiscus tea. Now, I wouldn't be a good gardener if I didn't tell you any of the downsides of my garden. I mean, everything's not perfect out here in the CrocGardener's garden. We had some failures, and we learned by these failures. The first thing we must talk about are pests. I had all kinds of pest problems. First off, squash bugs. They are very prevalent in my garden. They almost got me to the point where I want to just give up on the squashes every year. But I'm going to still kind of troop forward, and we'll still try to make room for those in the upcoming years. But to start the year off, we did have some issues. I did have some major fungus gnat issues down in my grow room, down in my basement. This was a result of me bringing some peppers in from outside, and that soil had the fungus gnats in it, had the eggs in it, and those fungus gnats came to fruition, and they attacked a lot of my plants. And not only did I have fungus gnats on those peppers, I had aphids and ants on those peppers. The aphids got so bad, the ants are actually taking them and farming them so that they could use the products of them eating the leaves. They would use that sweetness and bring it back to their nest and produce more ants. Let me tell you, ants are really hard to get rid of. Same with aphids and fungus gnats. I felt like I had the trifecta bringing me down at the beginning of the year. This really affected a lot of my plants early on. I didn't have hardly any pepper plants to plant. The tomato plants were affected a little bit. My brassicas were also affected greatly. I was able to get those pulled out in time to get them outside. And actually some of the cooler weather kind of killed off some of those aphids a little bit. So next year, I'm going to learn not to bring stuff from outside to inside without maybe properly treating the soil or properly treating the plant itself. Make sure I don't bring any pests inside with me. It's been a while since I've had any plants down in the basement, so hopefully those pests have gone away and moved on to greener pastures, if you will. Hopefully they won't resurface their head this year. Now, moving back outside, I did have some issues with some cabbage worms. Those things have gotten on my broccoli, my Brussels sprouts, and my cabbage. However, I was able to take care of those guys pretty quickly. I was able to pull them off, scrape any eggs off of those so I didn't have them coming back, and I was able to just dispose of those worms pretty quickly. Now, that did slow down my cabbage and my broccoli and my Brussels sprouts a little bit. And lastly, I did talk about the voles with the sweet potatoes. I had some voles munching on my sweet potatoes. This year, we're going to try to trap some of those voles, get rid of them, get them off the property, eliminate them, and so that way they're not eating and munching on my sweet potatoes. The sweet potatoes have been a banner crop for me in the past, and they've really kept my family fed over the winter months, which we loved eating those sweet potatoes. So why are we going to let those voles have them? We're going to take them this year. We're going to take them back. Now, I also had some total failures in the garden. These things never produce, never brought me a crop. They just were. The first thing were the carrots. When I went out to go pull out my spring carrots, I realized that I had a bunch of creepy crawlies in the soil eating those up. Part of it too were some voles eating those up, I believe. So the carrots never came to fruition. Hopefully my false carrots will come up and will produce a banner crop for me this year. That way I can can some carrots and have carrots all the way up till next fall, and then I could repeat the cycle. The next thing were my cucumbers, and that was all on me. I planted cucumbers, had them come up, and then I had to go to Florida for a family vacation. I pretty much missed the prime time of harvesting all those little cucumbers. They all went big, went to seed, and then they didn't produce enough for me to have enough cucumbers for my pickles. So next year, I'm going to focus on better timing with those cucumbers. And once again, due to the squash bugs, the squash never, ever made it. Nothing more I can say about that. I had a few plants that kind of are the ones that got away. They produce, they started looking good, and then towards the end, they just tapered off. One of them were Brussels sprouts. Man, I got so many little Brussels sprouts off of those things. I don't know what to do. I got to do a little bit of research, see if I can get bigger Brussels sprouts, see how I can get bigger Brussels sprouts. Maybe I just need to pick the Brussels sprouts more often and then produce more and become bigger and bigger. The next one was my broccoli. By the time my broccoli got up and mature, it was slowed down by the cabbage worms. By the time it got up and mature, it was getting too hot out and it started sprouting flowers. Nothing I really could do about that. But next year, maybe I'll start a little bit earlier, and hopefully those cabbage worms won't be an issue there. And last but not least, one thing that I had a banner crop in 2024, I did not have anything in 2025, and that was celery. Pretty much the basement grow room pests got to the celery plants. By the time I got them outside, they were so weak, so miserable, they did not survive the transition at all. My biggest takeaway this year has been pests and prevention. Let's get all these pests taken care of. Let's find out ways to kill the squash bugs. Let's prevent my grow room mishap that I had this year. I am going to prevent that, by the way. I'm not going to bring anything from outside back inside this year. Maybe I'll do some netting for my cabbage and my broccoli to prevent those cabbage worms. And we're going to trap all those voles this winter. Lesson number 2, spacing and timing. I need to start spacing things out. I need to have a better plan with my spacing. And I also need to have a better plan with my timing. If I'm taking a vacation, I need to know not to plant cucumbers so when they come time to harvest, I will miss it. I need to be better and more diligent about those things. 3, I learned from my red roselle hibiscus plants when I should be planting them. I took note of that this year. Next year, I hope for an even better harvest of those. So you do learn by failing a lot, but you also learn by winning as well. Looking ahead for the plans for 2026, we are going to do things a little bit differently this year. We are going to be taking things in a little bit more consideration. I'm going to make another video out about how I'm going to be planning for 2026. I'm going to actually go into greater detail on where I'm going to put things, what I'm going to do, when I'm going to have my timing for things. So be looking for that video. And don't worry, I'll be returning some of my favorite crops. You guys will get hands-on experience with those, and hopefully we'll have better successes next year. Even though this year was an success, we should be able to build on it from year to year to year. I am really looking forward to a couple things that hopefully will be even better this year than they were last year. One will be a grape harvest, and number 2 will be finally getting a cold hardy kiwi harvest. Granted, this won't be a big cold hardy kiwi harvest, but at least we'll be able to taste those things. It'll be my 3rd year having those plants, and hopefully we'll get some fruits off of those. Now I want to hear from you guys. I want to know how your gardens did. What was your biggest problem in your garden? What was your biggest success? Leave me comments down below. Let me know how things went in your garden. I love to hear success stories, and I love also to hear failures as long as you are learning from them. That's it for this video, guys. If you like what I'm doing, don't forget to click that bell and subscribe. You guys get notifications for whenever the next video comes out, namely the garden planting video. If you guys also like the video, give me 2 thumbs up. Cheers, guys, and God bless.